When we glue the face on here, you need to have the veneer. In this case, we're using just some Mozambique that was donated to us by Fetzers. We have both of our pieces here. We're only going to glue onto one of them. We need a piece of some tape. We need some newspaper. And we need 4 F-clamps as well as the looks like the thing's finally rusted through. It still works. The glue roller and some glue. Now we're just going to, the only part we're worried about is this outside parameter here. I don't care that much about the middle. So I'm just going to run a bead of glue like that in about 1 inch. And you can put some in there in the middle if you want, but it really doesn't make any difference because it's all going to be cut away. Then we take our glue roller and we just spread that out, and we want to make sure we spread that close to the edge, about like you see I'm doing here. Don't let it run all over the edge. We can go ahead and spread it out. I have to do something to keep that on there. That's not good. Okay, we've got that pretty much covered with glue. We take our Mozambique, center it. The gap on this side should be the same as this side. If it's not centered, if you're off, your rivet frame isn't going to work well. And you don't want that to shift while you're doing this, while it's on there. So I'm going to take just a brief moment and tape it on, just a little bit on both ends. And you see, because of the moisture, how the veneer is starting to curl up. I mean, that's okay, but that's just what happens. That's part of veneering. So I've got the same gap, both sides. I'm going to take, whoops, my newspaper and set it into like that and wrap this over the top of this. I'm going to put this on top of that. And now I'm just going to clamp it up. I'm going to take a clamp and put it on this corner. And you're doing a fairly good area that's being glued, so don't be too light with the pressure. Try to get it tight. Okay, that's all you need to do. Let it set overnight, and the next step to do this thing is to cut the front. After the glue has finished setting, preferably overnight, pull the clamps off, put them back where they belong. Please don't just leave the clamps out on the table. Okay, take the platen off. Now this newspaper we put around here is kind of stuck, but that's okay. We'll be sanding most of that off. Put the paper in the garbage. Now you take a ruler and take this masking tape off. Now most of this is going to be routed off with the CNC, so don't worry too much about getting it off. If it's a problem, it's really easy to take it off with either a card scraper or sandpaper. Now I measure this thing. It's 10.5, which is exactly where it should be. I'm going to mark this at 5.25. Come around the other side. It's 8.5. I'm going to mark this at 4.25. And so what I have now is the exact center of this board. Now we go turn on the CNC. Once again, to use the large CNC, first step you do, come over and turn that switch on. And you come down and hook up the air, which is right down here. You take the ring on here, pull back on it, push it on the knob, and lock it in. You can hear air here starting to hiss. So now you know the air's hooked up. You get this screen right here. It says, warning, machine home not set. Press cycle start to send the machine to the home position. That is important. That's right here. So to hit the cycle start, what you do is pick up this and you hit the green button. And then what's going to happen is this right here is showing that it is moving, and it's going to find the sensors to tell it where the home position is. And this machine is very precise. It takes a minute for that to happen. Okay, now it popped up right here and it says stopped. That means it's found its position. Usually takes about 15-20 seconds or more. But now you've got that, we go ahead and we load the file. The file we're going to load, come over here and hit load, which is F2 on the keyboard. And we're going to scroll over using the arrow keys to the safe. There you go. Safe face left hinge. It's highlighted in the yellow right there. Safe face left hinge CNC. That's the file we're going to run. So you hit enter. And you can hit F8 just to double check. And you see it drawing on the screen what it's going to do. And this is what it's going to do to that piece of wood that we just glued that veneer on. And to stop that, all you have to do is hit F1 or hit F1 to go in 3D, and it'll draw it in 3D for you. Or you can hit escape to cancel. Now what I have to do is mount my piece of wood in the CNC, mount it to the table, and bring the machine up to tell it where my piece of wood is. Because right now the machine right now in the process of putting the material in here, check it to make sure there's no glue. I have some glue right here that's going to stick out and hold it out a square. I want to make sure that's trimmed off with the chisel and or a knife. One end is straight. I'm just going to go ahead and use that edge down here. Clamp it right like that. Put that on there. I'm putting it tight against this board here. Make sure it's in there square. Take the clamp, slide that to it, tighten it. Bring the one over here. Bring it up to it, tighten it, make sure it's in there well, make sure there's no gaps underneath it, and it's got to be sitting flat. That's very important. Otherwise, your whole safe face is going to be looking crooked when you do it. Now, I need to bring the gantry with the motor down to here. So I'm going to hit Y minus. I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. With this button here, you can speed it up by turning that one way or another. Hit the Y minus, and that brings the whole table down to me. And so I've got it almost centered over my stuff. Now, what I need to do is put in the centering tool, which is this one right here. This one goes up inside of here. You put it up underneath the motor, push the green button here, hold it up there, and then just grab it, and it should have gripped. Now I'm just going to use the keys on this controller, and I'm going to lower that thing down to where it's right at that point. Now keep in mind, this thing has a lot of power. It'll go right through your piece of wood if you're not paying attention, and it'll split it. So what I'm doing, I'm going to take this off right now, just so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to slow the speed down a little bit so I can move it. Make sure I'm trying to get both my things in here. What I'm trying to do is move that thing to where it's just right over my cross. Z minus brings it down. X takes it across. And you can turn the black knob to slow it down if he's still going too fast for you. Okay, so I go in and I can't zoom anymore. I'm right on my mark, which is where I need to be to do this. What we're trying to do here is tell the machine where the head is. I mean, it knows it right here, but it doesn't know that's the center of our piece of wood. So what we want to do is come up here and hit F1 on the keyboard once, twice. And that brings up the X-axis. I want to set it, so I want to hit F10. So now this X up here has become 0. Then I hit the F1 again, and we're to the Y-axis. I hit F10 to set it, and now that's 0. And I do the same thing for the Z-axis. F10. Now all three axes are 0. The machine knows where it's at. So right now the machine knows where the cutter head is, I mean where your material is. We have the file loaded. All we have left to do is make sure on the controller box that the turtle button, the red light, is off. We're going to turn the speed back up to 100%. We're going to raise the Z-axis, take that centering spindle out the exact same way we put it in. We're taking this back out and put it down in the storage thing down on the leg. And at this point, our file is 100% loaded, set, ready to go. We can go ahead and run it. To run it, what we're going to do is we're going to hit escape on the keyboard 3 times. And that clears out the screen and we're ready to go. Okay, now after you've got it sanded, you want to look at it. You're going to find on the right side here, you're going to have 2 holes that are deeper than the others. you need to get the 1/4" drill bit and drill those all the way through, because those are actually the registration holes. They're the registration holes for the lock. So they need to go all the way through. Because when we put the lock on there, the pins line up with that to make sure everything matches all the other holes. Okay, jig we used to cut the rivet dowels that goes in the door is this right here, and you need 24 of them. Put it in like so. Lower the blade guard down to within a 1/4" above the material. That's pretty much standard all the time. Take your dowel, you push it through the hole on the side there till that thing pops up on this outside. Okay, now we turn it on. The dowels are cut on the bandsaw. Simple jig. We put the dowel through a hole in the right side. What's up on the flat? Push it up. You need to cut 24 of them. Okay, now sometimes when this is cut, these holes aren't all the way cut through, and if that's the case, you just take the router with the bearing and just run around that real quick. And if you have to drill a 1/4" starter hole, that's fine. Okay, now we just take these little dowel bits. Easy to grab them if you can take them like this and just tap them into the hole. And just, sometimes they just slip in. It depends. These dowels do vary a little bit in the size. I wouldn't try putting glue on them. Most of the time they fit well enough. Glue isn't necessary. Problem with putting glue is you don't want to get glue on the front of your door. And once these dowels are in and trimmed off, some lacquer on them, they're not going to come out. I've never had one pop out yet, and we've done an awful lot of these. Now these are going in pretty easy, but still I have to push them in, and it would be a work to get them out of there. Now, on these these last two over here, I'll finish these real quick. On the last two, you want to make sure that you I'll go ahead and do it. This one's going pretty fast. Okay, on the last two, where the holes go all the way through, take a little bit of glue, take a small toothpick type thing, very carefully go inside the hole and put a little bit of glue just around that parameter. Because remember, you drilled that hole out a little bit deeper. And so it's a little bigger diameter right now. So if you put the dowel in without glue, odds are your dowel is just going to slip through. And then you take your dowel and put it in just like that. Leave it sticking up just the same as the others. And then you can go around and just make sure they're all in there snug. Don't hit the ones you just glued, it'll knock them right in. So now you've got the dowel pins on here, the rivet pins. You still have these holes here ready to go for the lock registration. Okay, I set the saw at 7/8 And what I'm going to do is just cut these off just like this, so they're all cut the same height. I want to leave them sticking up just a little bit above my surface, because if you look at them right now, they're up there quite a ways. So I want to clean it up. Now if we look at them, they're all a nice uniform height. Then all you do is take a block of wood with a sandpaper on it and sand them flat and get them nice and pretty.